Well, with me is the Conservative MP, Nick Gibb, Minister of State for School Reform, and the Shadow Education Secretary, Tristram Hunt, MP. Nick Gibb, OK, ring-fenced, but eroding the school budget by not uplifting with inflation.
No, we're protecting school funding in cash terms, and as pupil numbers increase, more money will go into those schools. This is in the context.
But even the more money won't be...
Yes, but this is in the context, John, of having to tackle a record budget deficit we inherited from the Labour Party in 2010. We've had to reduce that from £156 billion a year. We've got it down to £100 billion, but we have to get it down to zero if we're going to maintain and strengthen our economic growth. That's our objective. And the trouble with the Labour Party's criticism of our spending plans is that they are overcommitted by £20 billion. They wrecked our public finances when they were last in office. And it's very clear today that they have learned nothing from those years in office. And if they got into power again, they would wreck our public finances again. We are maintaining spending on schools at a time when across Whitehall we're having to make some very significant savings to protect our economy.
So it's all your fault?
I think viewers will be shocked to know that a future Conservative government would deliver real-term cuts to schools, to training, to education, whilst at the same time
But he's explained why. He says you left the place in a terrible mess.
The government found tax cuts for multimillionaires. It could reduce the highest rate of tax for multimillionaires, but not invest to support teachers, schools, early years, sixth form colleges. This is where the future of our country lies. And if we're dealing with the productivity crisis in our economy, which is the amount of growth we have in our economy, we have to invest in our schools and our skills. And today the Conservative government have said, well, this is not a priority for us. We'll just go for some tax cuts, forget about pupil numbers, forget about having qualified teachers in the classroom, forget about having great vocational education. This is very familiar, old school Tory policy.
Before I get the Minister to respond, what is your policy then? What are you going to do? How much are you going to spend?
Well, when it comes to the full level of our expenditure, we'll be sending that out in the next couple of weeks. But I will absolutely say, right from the foundations of the Labour Party, we have supported education and skills. And when, we just saw the Bristol Brunel Academy, a sponsored academy under a Labour government, that kind of investment did wonders for so many young people's opportunity. We will get it by not having excessive tax cuts. We will get it by not having this ridiculous surplus that they want to produce.
They want to see at the end. Who you encouraged when you were in office.
But crucially also, John, we're not committed to returning to 1930s levels of public expenditure that the Tories are. We are committed to having a viable public realm, to investing in our schools and hospitals, rather than an ideological approach to stripping the state right back to the basics.
We're protecting schools' budgets in cash terms, as we have done over the last 5 years. And during those 5 years, 1 million more pupils are in good and outstanding schools than they were in 2010. We're improving reading, we've improved the curriculum, we're improving the quality of qualifications. Under the last Labour government, the qualifications that many students were taking in our schools, when we looked at them, we had a review by Professor Alison Wolfe, they were shown to have no value in the workplace. So now the vocational qualifications that young people take have real value.
But I don't understand how, given that we have a fixed-term parliament, in 5 years, and we don't know what's going to happen to inflation, but inflation is an issue. Even now, 0.5% is a lot in an education budget. How are you going to protect, ring-fence spending on schools if, in fact, it's being eroded by inflation?
We are living in a very low inflation, but when you're having to tackle a budget deficit of the size that we had in 2010, it was almost equivalent in percentage terms to Greece's. We had to take difficult decisions. Look, it's very easy to announce spending plans. Any government can do that, but a competent government has to take difficult decisions to ensure that our public finances are on a sure footing. That is the core to ensuring strong economic growth, and it's strong economic growth that generates the wealth to finance our public services. Well, that is what this government is delivering. Well, I'm afraid if we had a Labour government in power, we'd be returning back to those chaotic days of the last Labour government.
A war on mediocrity. David Cameron said that'll ring bells with some people. They'll want a war on mediocrity in schools, and there's plenty of leeway to attack it.
I don't like this language of war when it comes to schools. Actually, what I want to see is schools working together
it's not
to
much
raise,
different from weaponising the health service,
standards.
is it?
What we've seen under this government is the poorest kids fall further behind. The attainment gap between kids on free school meals and non-free school meals is growing. We've got an inequality in our education system, particularly in coastal towns, particularly in some of our shire counties. So the Labour Party's
will you force people to go in to become academies if they're failing schools?
The Labour Party's vision is this, that under the last Labour government, we transformed education opportunities for young people in London through the London Challenge, getting all schools to work together, to collaborate, to partner, to raise standards.
Right.
And that's our vision across the country.
Okay.
So we want the Somerset Challenge,
example,
the Manchester Challenge.
But for example, are you going to force schools to become academies if they're failing?
I, as Secretary of State, am not going to force individual schools because we are devolving this as well down to a local area. It is crazy that Nick Gibb, as Minister for State in Whitehall, decides at a flick of a pen what school's going to do what lesson will be taught there.
Good
we
point.
need a massive
let's get a minister's
power,
response.
John,
It
so
is
that
interesting.
local people have responsibility.
It is interesting on a day when the Prime Minister mentions devolution that you're actually going to take power from local authorities, keep it in Whitehall when any of these schools fail.
No, it's Ofsted that makes this judgment.
But that's Whitehall.
It's the
Where's the local accountability?
independent
Where's the
inspectorate,
local accountability?
Regional school commissioners.
Where's my elected councillor in all this? Nowhere.
These regional school commissioners accountable to the Secretary of State, to Parliament. We took 1,000 failing schools over this last 5 years and turned them into academies. I don't know why Tristram Hunt is so against academies. Under Tony Blair and Andrew Adonis, Labour politicians, centre-left politicians of the last Labour government, they were in support of academies. This government has moved away from
sponsored academies,
and
Nick,
they're doing
which
extremely well. They are
those are doing
transforming
much
at
better than the academies you brought
on
in
this particular
to existence.
joust.
But I think all schools should work together. Academies,
Right.
free schools,
let me come in.
community schools,
On this
all of them.
joust, we're going to have to leave it there, but we will come back to academies, we'll come back to education, and we'll have you both here again. Thank you very much indeed. Krishnan.
Thank you. So what does David Cameron's pledge on funding really amount to? Find out by going to Fact Check on our website, channel4.com/news.